Hello everyone. We are from the group 2, here to tackle about Renaissance, Mannerism, and Minimalism. Enjoy!
Renaissance.
Renaissance is characterized by forms, with perfect proportion and restrained beauty. According to Charles, 2012, it delineates the ideal and the actual, the sacred and the profane. It depicts nature, humanistic learning, and individualism, even though these facets existed during the late medieval period, but these features become more dominant because of social and economic changes such as the secularization of daily life, the rise of a rational money credit economy, and greatly increased social mobility. The Renaissance was a period in European history marking the transition from the Middle Ages to modernity and covering the 15th and 16th centuries. It occurred after the crisis of the late Middle Ages and was associated with great social change. Some famous artworks during that time are Mona Lisa, David of Michelangelo, The Last Supper, and more. There are characteristics of Renaissance which are: 1. Fine arts, which is an activity requiring great skill or accomplishment. The 5 main fine arts were painting, sculpture, architecture, music, and poetry. Sculptors such as Donato and later Michelangelo went back to classical techniques like contrapposto, and classical subjects like the unsupported nude. Painters began to utilize methods of realism by improving skills in three-dimensional perspective. Painters began to veer away from religious themes and focused more on people and landscapes. Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael and Michelangelo Buonarroti were some of the most prominent Renaissance painters. 2. Science and technology. Science and technology is an interdisciplinary topic encompassing science, technology, and their interactions. The innovative technology of the Renaissance was sparked by Johann Gutenberg's reinvention of the printing press in the 1450s. Some of the other significant inventions during the Renaissance period were the cast iron pipe, portable clock, rifle barrel, shotgun, screwdriver and wrench. An Italian physicist, astronomer and philosopher Galileo Galilei improved the telescope and made important astronomical observations. 3. Religion and spirituality. During the Renaissance, Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation in Germany. New denominations such as the Church of England and the Jesuit order of Roman Catholic priests originated during the Renaissance. 4. Leisure. For sport, jousting was popular during the Renaissance era. Jousting was a sport that consisted of 2 knights on horseback trying to knock the other off his horse. Theater was also popular during the Renaissance. Whereas earlier theater had often focused on morality plays, comedy became a popular genre during this time. One of the most well-known Renaissance-era poets and playwrights, William Shakespeare, wrote several dozen plays and over 150 sonnets before his death in 1616. Here are some examples for paintings. Degrees, Birth of Venus 1485 to 1486 by Botticelli. Degrees, The Last Judgment 1536 to 1541 by Michelangelo. Degrees, Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. Francis Angelico, Francis Giovanni de Fiesole, The Annunciation, across from the top of the staircase to the second floor, 1450. Fresco, 230 by 321 centimeters. Convento di San Marco, Florence. Lorenzo Monaco. Adoration of the Magi, 1421 to 1422. Tempera on panel, 115 by 170 centimeters. Galleria degli Uffizi, Florence. 4. Architecture. Filippo Brunelleschi, Duomo of Santa Maria del Fiore, 1420 to 1436. Florence. Leon Battista Alberti, Santa Maria Novella, upper part of the facade, 1458 to 1470. Donato Bramante, Santa Maria del Grigi, 1492. Degrees, St. Peter's Basilica, designed by Michelangelo. Pietro Lombardo, Santa Maria de Mercoli, 1481 to 1489. Venice. 4. Sculpture. Lorenzo Ghiberti, Story of Abel and Cain, original panel of the Eastern Door of Eden, Baptistry of Florence, 1425 to 1437. Gilded bronze, 79.5 by 79.5 centimeters. Museo dell'Opera del Duomo, Florence. Andrea del Verrocchio, Andrea di Francesco da Chini. Equestrian statue of Bartolomeo Colleone, also called the Colleone, 1480 to 1495. Gilded bronze, h. 396 centimeters. Campo di San Giovanni Paolo, Venice. Michelangelo Buonarroti, Pietà, 1498 to 1499. Marble, h. 174 centimeters. St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican. Giambologna, Gimbolone or Bulone. Mercury, 1564 to 1580. Bronze, h. 180 centimeters. Museo Nazionale del Bargello, Florence. Jean Goujon. Caryatid, 1550 to 1551. Stone. Musée du Louvre, Paris. These are some proponents of the Renaissance art. Leonardo da Vinci has been widely regarded as one of the world's greatest minds with extraordinary talents included painting, mathematics, architecture, engineering, botany, sculpture and human biology. He painted The Last Supper, the Vitruvian Man and the Mona Lisa. Michelangelo Buonarroti, the most renowned work of Renaissance architecture, his frescoes on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and the statue of David. Raphael rooms depicted the harmony and wisdom which Renaissance humanity perceived between Christian teaching and Greek philosophy. Lorenzo de' Medici, along with being a statesman and major patron of the arts, he also encouraged the development of Renaissance humanism through his inner circle of scholars and philosophers. Galileo Galilei, father of observation astronomy, he made key discoveries in both pure fundamental science as well as practical applied science, and in doing so revolutionized our understanding of the world. Today it is important by patrons, scholar, artists, and engineers of the Renaissance looked back of their ancient ancestors in order to help them craft their world in the 15th and 16th centuries. Leaders of that time could be very forward-thinking in their approaches. The level of artistic and architectural production during this time is astounding, so much so that centuries later works produced during the Renaissance continue to capture the public's imagination. The Renaissance teaches us the power of looking to the past for insights and inspiration in dealing with today's issue.
Mannerism.
Mannerism, an excessive or self-conscious use of style in art, literature, or music. This include hyper-idealization, exaggerated poses, crowded unorganized form or art. Mannerism began at Florence and Rome, then to northern Italy from the 1520s, high Renaissance tail end, to around 1590, the commencement of Baroque. Mannerism, also known as late Renaissance, is a style in European art that emerged in the later years of the Italian High Renaissance around 1520, spreading by about 1530 and lasting until about the end of the 16th century in Italy, when the Baroque style largely replaced it. Northern Mannerism continued into the early 17th century. Characteristics of Mannerism are: 1. Elongation of figures. Mannerist work featured the elongation of the human figure. Occasionally this contributed to the strange imagery of some Mannerist art. 2. Distortion of perspective. The distortion of perspective explored the ideals for creating a perfect space. However, the idea of perfection sometimes referred to the creation of unique imagery. 3. Black backgrounds. Mannerist artists often utilized flat black backgrounds to present a full contrast of contours in order to create dramatic scenes. Black backgrounds also contributed to a creating sense of fantasy within the subject matter. 4. Use of darkness and light. Mannerists were interested in capturing the essence of the night sky through the use of intentional illumination, often creating a sense of fanatical scenes. Notably, special attention was paid to torch and moonlight to create dramatic scenes. 5. Sculptural forms. Mannerist artists often base their depictions of human bodies in reference to sculptures and prints. Here are examples for Mannerism. Painting. 1. Agnolo Bronzino, Italian, 1503 to 1572, Elinor di Toledo, circa 1560, oil on panel, Samuel H. Kress Collection, September 7, 1961. 2. Andrea del Sarto, Italian, 1486 to 1530, Charity, before 1530, oil on panel, Samuel H. Kress Collection, 1957.14.5. 3. Rosso Fiorentino, Italian, 1494 to 1540, Portrait of a Man, early 1520s, oil on panel, Samuel H. Kress Collection, 1961.9.59. 4. Jacopino del Conte, Italian, 1510 to 1598, Madonna and Child with Saint Elizabeth and Saint John the Baptist, circa 1535, oil on panel, Ailsa Mellon Bruce Fund, November 1, 1985. 5. Perino del Vaga, Italian, 1501 to 1547, The Nativity, 1534, oil on panel transferred to canvas, Samuel H. Kress Collection, September 31, 1961. 4. Architecture. 1. Michelangelo, Piazza del Campidoglio, Capitoline Hill, 1538-64. 2. Giulio Romano, Palazzo del Te, in Mantua, Courtyard Facade, 1526-34. 4. Sculpture. 1. Giovanni da Bologna, Abduction, Rape, of the Sabine Woman, 1583, marble, 13 feet 6 inches height. 2. Adriaan de Vries, Netherlandish, circa 1556 to 1626, Empire Triumphant over Avarice, 1610, bronze, Widener Collection, 1942.9.148. Here are several proponents for Mannerism. Jacopo de Pontormo. Jacopo de Pontormo's work has been known as some of the most important contributions to Mannerism. Much of his subject matter drew upon religious narratives as well as the influence of the works of Michelangelo and referencing sculpture for composing human forms. Agnolo Bronzino. Agnolo Bronzino was a pupil of Pontormo, whose style was very influential and often confusing in terms of figuring out the attribution of many artworks. Jacopo Tintero. Jacopo Tintero has been known for his vastly different contributions to Venetian painting after the legacy of Titian. His work, which differed greatly from his predecessors, had been criticized by Vasari for its fantastical, extravagant, bizarre style. El Greco. El Greco attempted to express religious emotion with exaggerated traits. After the realistic depiction of the human form and the mastery of perspective achieved in High Renaissance, some artists started to deliberately distort proportions in disjointed, irrational space for emotional and artistic effect. El Greco still is a deeply original artist. Joachim Tuael. Joachim Tuael, 1566 to 1638, continued to paint in a northern Mannerist style until the end of his life, ignoring the arrival of the Baroque art, and making him perhaps the last significant Mannerist artist still to be working. Where High Renaissance art emphasizes proportion, balance, and ideal beauty, Mannerism exaggerates such qualities, often resulting in compositions that are asymmetrical or unnaturally elegant. The style is notable for its intellectual sophistication as well as its artificial, as opposed to naturalistic, qualities.
Minimalism.
Minimalism has been referred as minimal art, ABC art, cool art, literalist art, object art, primary structure art. Minimalism was an art movement that developed in the United States in the late 1950s and that reached its peak in the mid to late 1960s. Minimalism emerged in the late 1950s when artists such as Frank Stella, whose black paintings were exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art in New York in 1959, began to turn away from the gestural art of the previous generation. It flourished in the 1960s and 1970s with Carl Andre, Dan Flavin, Donald Judd, Saul LeWitt, Agnes Martin and Robert Morris becoming the movement's most important innovators. Several important characteristics also identify what we won't find in minimalism. For example, it is not expressive. Instead, the artist removes all elements of biography or emotion. When you stand in front of a minimalist painting, you won't see big ideas, complex subjects, or social agendas. The paintings are about geometry and color. Minimalist art is art for art's sake minus the emotion. Here are several examples for minimalism. Carl Andre's lever at the 1966 primary structures. British minimalist John Pawson's design, a Japanese island of Okinawa. Saul LeWitt's 2 open modular cubes in 1972. Frank Stella's hyena stomp in 1962. Carl Andre's 144 magnesium square 1969. Saul LeWitt conceived four-sided pyramid in 1965, constructed 1999. Proponent for minimalism. It flourished in the 1960s and 1970s with Carl Andre, Dan Flavin, Donald Judd, Saul LeWitt, Agnes Martin and Robert Morris becoming the movement's most important innovators. And also, Enrico Castellani, 1930 to 2017, as the father of minimalism for his monochromatic paintings, began in the late 1950s, on canvases topographically altered by underlying rows of items. Minimalism is important because it reminds us that possessions are easy to replace, while our friends and loved ones are not. Minimalism is important because it reminds us that possessions are easy to replace, while our friends and loved ones are not.